The air is already heavy with night when awareness drifts back in, a moment caught between waking and sleep. Stone walls hold the day's warmth, and a faint glow lingers where a candle once stood. Nothing moves quickly, nothing demands attention. There is only the quiet presence of a world that never truly hurries. Tonight, we are going to drift gently backward through time, sliding softly into the medieval world, a place shaped by routine and patience, where each day resembles the last, and life moves at the pace of sunlight and shadow. Here, we will spend a little time noticing how ordinary moments unfolded, how simple habits shaped bodies and thoughts, and why surviving even a single day might feel far more difficult than expected. As the story unfolds, just a gentle reminder. If you're enjoying this so far, you're welcome to like the video and subscribe only if it feels right. I always love seeing where you're listening from and what time it is for you, so feel free to share that in the comments. Now, stay right where you are. Let the room remain dim. Let the background sounds fade in softly, and allow yourself to sink back into the story as it continues. Imagine the first pale light of dawn brushing over thatched roofs, touching the rough timber beams of small cottages, spilling across cobblestone paths still damp with morning. A faint, earthy scent rising from the packed earth, the soft smell of wood smoke from last night's fire lingering in the cool air. Inside a modest home, a wooden bowl sits on a rough-hewn table, still warm. From the hearth, filled with porridge made from coarse oats, stirred gently with a carved wooden spoon, the steam curling softly into the quiet room. A cat stretches slowly near the hearth, its fur catching the first light, its breathing even, steady, outside. The village is slowly waking. A child steps barefoot onto the cool ground, small feet pressing lightly against the packed earth. Birds move between the branches of the central elm, their song gentle, delicate, a soft reminder that the day is beginning. A farmer walks to the well, hands gripping a wooden bucket, feeling the cool, rough rope under his fingers, lowering it carefully into the water, the bucket creaking softly, water glinting in the early sun, lifting it slowly, carrying it back to the hearth, drops falling. Quietly onto the stone floor, women begin to sweep the floor, brooms made from bundled twigs, the sound soft and rhythmic, dust rising lightly and falling again. Each sweep, measured, careful, habitual, a quiet attention to order that has existed for generations. Children wander toward the animals, chickens scratching gently at the earth, a goat nibbling at tender grass. The smell of hay faint but grounding, each movement deliberate, slow, predictable, comforting. Through the village, there is no hurry. Even the baker moves slowly, kneading dough on a wooden table, flour clinging softly to her fingers, the rhythmic motion calming, hands pressing, folding, resting, the smell of fresh bread rising gently into the cool morning air. The sun climbs gradually, light spilling across fields of green, cows grazing quietly, the sound of hooves soft against grass, a breeze rustling through simple wooden fences, carrying faint scents of herbs and flowers from small garden patches, each smell gentle, each movement quiet. Villagers move quietly through their morning. A blacksmith steps into his small workshop, the warm glow of embers in the forge flickering across his face, tools hanging on rough timber walls, hammers, and tongs waiting patiently. He lifts a piece of iron carefully, feeling its weight, his fingers tracing its cold, hard surface before placing it in the coals, the heat rising slowly, soft orange light dancing on the walls. Nearby, the weaver sits at a simple loom, her fingers moving slowly over threads of muted colors, wool stretched taut, fibers brushing lightly against each other, the gentle rhythm of the shuttle moving back and forth, a quiet clack accompanying the soft rustle of threads. each movement deliberate, soothing in its predictability. In the village square, a few early risers set up a small market stall, pots of herbs, dried flowers, bundles of onions and garlic, all arranged with quiet care, the smell of fresh soil and dried herbs blending softly in the cool air. A small basket of eggs rests on the edge, brown and speckled, soft light glinting off the shells. A baker emerges with a tray of bread, each loaf still warm, golden crust faintly cracking under gentle touch, passing it quietly to a neighbor, the smell drifting through the narrow street, warm, comforting, faintly sweet. Children wander slowly, bare feet brushing dew-soaked grass, collecting smooth stones or watching tiny insects crawl among the roots, their movements unhurried, their laughter soft, almost swallowed by the gentle sounds of the village. Smoke curls from chimneys, the smell of cooking fires mixing with earth and grass, a faint hum of life, calm and steady. Wind moves through open windows, softly lifting stray strands of hair, caressing the worn fabrics of tunics and skirts. Even the river at the edge of the village moves with quiet purpose, water sliding over smooth stones, glinting softly in the morning sun. A heron stepped carefully along the bank, feet barely making a sound, its reflection rippling faintly, the motion slow, peaceful. In the small chapel, a bell tolls softly, the sound drifting over rooftops, no rush in its echo, just a gentle reminder of the passing hours. Villagers pause, some turning their heads to listen, then returning to simple, ordinary tasks. Each motion soft, intentional. Meals are prepared with care, stews simmering in heavy pots, vegetables chopped with smooth, practiced motions, the aroma rising slowly, warmth spilling softly from the fire, hands wiping slowly on cloths, everything quiet and measured. Even the wind seems to move carefully through the village, whistling gently through narrow alleys, rustling leaves, caressing the thatched roofs, carrying faint scents of herbs, smoke and earth. Soft, unhurried, as if the entire village breathes slowly together, and in these quiet moments the mind can drift, floating lightly from one sound to another, noticing the texture of timber, the smell of bread, the warmth of sun on stone, the gentle movements of animals and people, each detail soft, absorbing, soothing. By late morning, the sun has risen higher, casting warm, soft light over the cottages, the stone paths glowing faintly, the air carrying a mixture of scents, freshly tilled soil, herbs drying on windowsills, smoke from cooking fires, a faint sweetness from flowers in the small gardens, in the fields. Farmers move deliberately, hoes scraping earth quietly, hands gripping wooden handles worn smooth, sweat dampening sleeves, the sound of metal on soil soft and rhythmic, children sometimes trailing behind, small feet pressing into soft mud, occasionally stopping to pick up a bright leaf or a smooth stone. Near the edge of the village, a woman tends to her garden, pulling weeds slowly, checking the herbs, the rosemary soft and fragrant, thyme brushing gently against her fingers, a small pot of water nearby, cool and dark, refreshed. The plants with careful, steady motions. The blacksmith works with patience, lifting iron from the coals, striking it slowly, the gentle ringing filling the air, a rhythm that matches the slow breathing of the village, each hammer strike deliberate, echoing softly against the walls of the small workshop. A shepherd walks along a winding path, watching over a small flock of sheep, their woolly bodies moving with calm predictability, the grass parting under their feet, wind brushing the shepherd's cloak, his steps soft on the earth, every movement steady and measured. Back in the village, small baskets of food are exchanged quietly, a neighbor bringing fresh eggs, another offering a small loaf of bread, hands touching lightly, nodding, smiles soft, brief, words low, all gentle in their familiarity. Near the river, a few villagers wash clothes, hands dipping linen into cool water, rubbing slowly, squeezing softly, the water rippling quietly, sunlight glinting off the surface, tiny waves moving without rush, the sound faint and soothing. In the shade of the elm at the village centre, children play softly, rolling hoops along the ground, sticks tapping lightly, laughter barely rising above the quiet rustle of leaves, their motions slow, careful, absorbed in the simple rhythm of play. Everywhere, life moves deliberately, from the faint flutter of a bird's wings, to the gentle swish of a broom, to the slow turning of a wheel in the watermill. Each motion contained, soft, part of a steady, unhurried rhythm. Lunch is prepared slowly, vegetables chopped into small pieces, pottage simmering in heavy pots, steam curling upward, aroma drifting softly through open windows, hands stirring gently, checking the heat, lifting lids and replacing them carefully. Everything measured, intentional, even in these ordinary moments. There is a quiet richness, the weight of a wooden spoon, the texture of cloth on fingers, the sound of a door swinging softly, the cool touch of water on skin, small, subtle details that fill the day. Slowly, softly, as afternoon stretches on, shadows lengthen, light softening, the warmth of the sun gentle on rooftops, the earth cooling slightly, winds brushing lightly over fields and gardens, the village breathing slowly, each movement contained, deliberate, peaceful. As afternoon deepens, the sun sinks slowly toward the horizon, light stretching across the fields, casting long, soft shadows over cottages and gardens, the air carrying a hint of warmth still lingering from midday blended with the faint, earthy scent of tilled soil and the dry rustle of hay. In the workshops, hands move steadily. A carpenter lifts a plank, feeling the smooth grain beneath his fingers, chisels resting nearby, tiny, shavings falling quietly to the floor, the rhythmic scrape of tools on wood soft and measured, each motion deliberate, careful. A woman in her cottage tends to spinning, wool wrapped around her, spindle, her fingers guiding the fibers slowly, twisting them into thread, the wheel turning gently under her hands. A soft, continuous hum filling the small room, the air scented faintly with lanolin and herbs. Outside, the goats and sheep shift slowly, chewing the last tender shoots of grass, hooves pressing into softened earth, the sound muted, almost absorbed into the gentle hum of the village. Birds settle in low branches, soft chirps punctuating the quiet at the edge of the village. A man repairs a fence, splitting wood carefully, hammering nails slowly, listening to the faint creak of timber. His movements patient, each action deliberate, no rush, just the steady completion of a small, necessary task. Children wander lazily, gathering small stones, watching insects move among the roots, their laughter soft, tiny footsteps pressing into the soil, sometimes a small squeak of a mouse in the underbrush, all sounds gentle, all absorbed by the village stillness. As the shadows grow longer, the smell of food begins to drift, pots on the hearth simmering, vegetables softening. Slowly, a faintly smoky aroma rising from the wood fire, hands stirring carefully, checking flavors quietly, lids lifted and replaced, everything done with attention, without hurry. The blacksmith tends the embers again, lifting and shifting coals, metal glowing softly in the fading light, the occasional tap of a hammer, soft against the anvil, echoing quietly like a heartbeat of the village itself. Neighbors visit one another slowly, exchanging small gifts, a loaf of bread, a handful of herbs, words low and soft. hands brushing briefly, eyes meeting with gentle understanding, the motion of social life slow, careful, familiar. As evening draws near, firelight spills out of windows, dancing softly on walls, faces glow faintly, hands resting from labor, muscles easing gradually. The day's work complete, the rhythm of life winding down. Animals settle, hens roost quietly, sheep lying down in soft pens, the goat's breath slow and steady. Even the dog curls into a patch of straw, ears twitching lightly, all movement soft, all contained. The wind moves through the village, rustling leaves, caressing the thatched roofs, carrying faint scents of herbs and cooked food, soft and unhurried. Evening cooling slowly, preparing the world for night. And in these quiet hours, the mind drifts, noticing textures of wood, the warmth of stone walls, the faint glow of palm embers, the soft touch of fabric, the distant murmur of water in the stream, each detail gentle, absorbing, soothing. Night settles fully over the village, darkness stretching slowly across rooftops and narrow lanes, the air cooling gradually, slipping into every corner, touching the stone floors and timber walls, gentle and complete. Fires burn low, glowing softly in hearths, casting flickering light on walls, wise faces relaxed. Hands resting, muscles loosening after the day, the aroma of evening meals lingering faintly. Windows show only shadows, faint outlines of furniture, a chair here, a table there, the texture of woven cloth visible under the dim light. Small objects resting quietly, untouched now. Animals settle deeper into pens, chickens clucking softly before sleep. Goats lying down, their breath slow and even. Dogs curled in small patches of straw, ears twitching lightly. All still, all contained. The river at the edge of the village glides quietly, water brushing smooth stones, reflecting the pale moonlight. Soft ripples moving slowly. A heron rests at the bank, its head tucked under a wing, motionless, peaceful. Wind brushes through narrow alleys, rustling leaves, lifting strands of hair, brushing against doors and windows. The sound soft, expected, absorbed into the calm. In cottages, the faint creak of timber, a lid shifting, a ball nudged slightly, small motions that do not disturb the quiet, all echoing gently, reassuringly. Smoke rises slowly from last embers, curling into the night air. The faint scent carried across rooftops, a gentle reminder of warmth, of home, of quiet labor concluded. The village is almost entirely still, only the faintest movements, a cat shifting. In the corner, a child turning in sleep, a breath rising and falling steadily, all absorbed into the steady rhythm of night. The mind begins to drift, floating lightly between awareness and sleep, thoughts thinning, attention softening, neither fully awake nor fully asleep. Time passes quietly, hours folding into each other, the cool night air brushing softly over exposed skin, the body resting, muscles softening, limbs curling into familiar positions. In this deep stillness, each small sound becomes part of the gentle whole, the distant owl, the soft shift of wind, the quiet brushing of leaves, all absorbed, all soft, all comforting. Sleep deepens, steady, restorative, breath slowing, limbs fully relaxing, the mind floating in calm, secure, safe, held by the gentle pulse of ordinary life. The moon moves slowly across the sky, casting pale light over rooftops, silvering the edges of timber and stone. Nothing stirs, everything rests, even shadows remain soft, folded into themselves. Hours pass without edges, time dissolving into quiet, the village breathing softly, the river moving calmly, animals sleeping, Fires reduced to faint glows. All is patient. All is steady. And as the night lingers, there is only the sense of persistence, of cycles continuing, habit guiding motion, routine shaping life, existence moving softly, without urgency, without drama, simply enduring, carried forward by the calm, steady, gentle rhythm of the village. Morning will come again. Light will slip slowly through gaps in roofs and walls, but for now, the village rests completely, sleep deep, complete, absorbing, tranquil. Dawn breaks slowly. Pale light spreading across rooftops, touching stone and timber, warming the packed earth softly, dew sparkling. Faintly, the smell of damp soil and herbs lingering. A rooster crows gently, its voice low, softly carried across the village. A signal, not urgent. A slow awakening. Inside cottages, women rise slowly, hands brushing sleep from eyes, reaching for water, drawing it from buckets near the hearth, cold, smooth, slipping slightly in fingers, lifted carefully, poured into bowls, ready for morning chores. Children stretch, curl, and yawn. Feet pressing into cool floors, hands brushing over blankets, soft fabrics worn from use, the smell of straw and wool faint, comfortable, familiar. Outside, the wind moves lightly, rustling leaves, carrying scents of bread from yesterday's baking, smoke from early fires, soft and warm. A gentle stirring of life in the fields. Farmers begin to move, hooves lifted carefully, feet pressing into soft soil, each motion deliberate, slow, the sun rising gradually, casting light that shifts the shadows, touching the tops of cottages. First, then sliding over gardens and paths. The blacksmith checks his forge, embers glowing faintly. Iron lifted carefully, tools arranged for the day. The soft clink of metal on stone accompanies the slow rhythm of morning. Women tend gardens, pulling weeds, checking herbs, water poured slowly, fingers brushing leaves, sunlight glinting off dew, all movements measured, soft, calm. The village stirs, but slowly, deliberately, each sound gentle, each motion absorbed into the quiet harmony of life. By mid-morning, the market begins to prepare. Stalls set up slowly, baskets of vegetables, onions, garlic, bundles of herbs, pottery carefully stacked, faint clay smell in the air. A baker moves quietly, carrying a tray of golden bread, warm crust cracking faintly under her. Fingers, aroma rising gently into the cool air. Children wander nearby, bare feet brushing grass, picking up smooth stones, watching insects crawl slowly, their voices low, their movements absorbed. Into the gentle hum of the village, the morning sun rises slowly, its pale light spilling across the uneven rooftops of the village, touching the rough timbers of cottages, the thatch glowing. Softly long shadows stretching across the narrow lanes, and the packed earth of paths warmed gently. Dew clings to the edges of leaves and the tips of grass, tiny droplets catching light before settling. A faint scent of damp earth and moss rises softly, a lingering memory of overnight coolness inside the cottages. The warmth of small fires still lingers, hearths glowing faintly, smoke curling lazily toward openings in the walls, a soft, earthy aroma mingling with the faint sweetness of herbs drying near the windows. A woman stretches slowly, hands brushing sleep from eyes, her fingers tracing the rough texture of timber, feet pressing into the cool stone or packed earth, each motion unhurried. She reaches for a small wooden bowl of water, cold and smooth against her skin, lifting it carefully to rinse her face, tiny droplets falling quietly onto the floor nearby. A child awakens, bare feet pressing lightly against straw-stuffed mattresses, hands brushing against soft woolen blankets, eyes blinking at the pale morning light. A faint giggle escapes as a cat stretches beside them, its fur catching the light, soft and warm, the sound of purring rising gently through the streets. The village is beginning to stir. The first faint clinks of tools, the quiet scrape of brooms against earthen floors, the soft murmur of voices, low and deliberate, here. A blacksmith shifts embers in the forge, lifting glowing iron slowly, hammer meeting metal with gentle rhythm, echoing softly against stone walls, the heat rising slowly, warming the small space outside. A shepherd moves along a narrow lane, watching over a small flock of sheep, the animals grazing with slow, steady movements, hooves pressing lightly against the softened ground, wind brushing gently against the shepherd's cloak. Hair lifted softly, he breathes in the cool, earthy air. Near the river, a woman kneels, linen in hand, dipping it carefully into the cool water, swirling it slowly, tiny ripples catching sunlight, water droplets falling gently back into the current, the soft murmur of the stream blending with the distant sound of birds, their wings brushing leaves, small, rhythmic movements. In the village square, a few children wander, bare feet pressing into warm stones, picking up smooth pebbles, watching tiny insects crawl across the roots of a small elm, low whispers and quiet giggles drifting into the tarn. Soft air nearby. A woman arranges fresh herbs, rosemary, thyme, sage, bundles tied carefully, the scent faint but grounding. The sunlight catching the edges of leaves, hands moving with deliberate care. A baker lifts a tray of fresh bread, golden crust glinting softly, aroma rising slowly, warm and comforting, placed carefully on the stool, small movements of exchange, hands passing bowls and loaves, soft smiles, and nods, low, quiet words, all measured, all gentle, in the fields. Farmers lift tools, hoes, spades, sickles, hands gripping worn wood, edges smoothed by countless repetitions, moving slowly, cutting furrows, turning soil, sweat dampening sleeves, the sound of metal. On earth, faint, soft, repetitive, the rhythm soothing. Near the garden plots, a woman pulls weeds, her fingers brushing lightly against soil, checking each plant carefully. Water poured slowly. Tiny streams soaking roots, hands brushing leaves, sunlight glinting on drops. Small flock of chickens moves lazily, pecking gently, clucking softly. The distant lowing of cows drifting from pastures, all sounds mingling into a gentle symphony of ordinary life. Even the wind seems to move carefully, whistling through narrow alleys, lifting loose strands of hair, rustling leaves, carrying the faint smoke of cooking fires, the warmth of hay, the smell of soil and grass, all blending into one soft, continuous presence. The rhythm of the day flowing slowly, unhurried, calm, comforting. Lunch approaches slowly, pots simmering, vegetables chopped carefully, stews bubbling faintly, aroma rising quietly, hands stirring gently, checking flavors, lifting lids and replacing them softly. Nearby, a child helps carry bull's-eyed tiny hands gripping handles carefully, walking slowly, meals shared with quiet attention, soft murmurs accompanying each gesture. Even the smallest motions, deliberate, obbed into the gentle flow of the village. Throughout the afternoon, the light shifts, warm sun sliding lower, softening shadows, touching the timbers of houses, catching the edges of stone walls, rusting the fences lightly, illuminating fields where animals move slowly, sheep grazing, cows shifting weight, hooves pressing gently into earth, dogs resting under shade, their breathing slow and steady. A faint breeze lifts dust and scents of earth and herbs. Blacksmith lifts hammer again, metal ringing softly, the rhythm gentle, echoing through the village. Near the river, water ripples quietly, the faint reflection of sky and trees glimmering. A heron stands motionless, breathing slow, motionless, absorbed in stillness. As the afternoon stretches on, the sun begins to dip lower, casting gentle amber light across the fields and cottages. Long, soft shadows stretching across the packed earth and cobblestone paths, the air shifting subtly, warming in patches where sunlight touches, cooling slightly in shaded corners. The smell of hay, herbs, and soil blending faintly with the lingering aroma of cooking. A baker lifts a small pot of stew, steam rising softly, hands stirring slowly, checking carefully the texture of vegetables nearby. Children wander slowly through narrow lanes, bare feet pressing against warm stones, hands brushing along the rough timber walls, their eyes following the slow movements of ants and beetles. Soft giggles barely audible, absorbed immediately into the gentle rhythm of the village. A woman tends to a small flock of chickens, coaxing them slowly toward food, hands moving deliberately. Chickens pecking softly at the grain, the faint rustle of feathers accompanying the quiet clucking. A dog lies nearby, tail shifting slightly, ears twitching lightly, its breathing slow, steady, reflecting the calm of the day. In the fields, farmers continue their work, hoes turning soil, sickles cutting stalks of grain, hands worn and steady, sweat dampening sleeves, the muted scrape of tools against earth blending with the soft clinking. From the blacksmith's workshop, the blacksmith lifts a glowing iron bar, hammer striking gently, metal singing softly, echoing faintly against stone walls, a rhythmic heartbeat of labor near the river. Water flows calmly, ripples glinting with the sun's faint reflection. A heron shifts weight lightly, legs bending slowly, its head tucked slightly, motionless, listening, observing. The gentle murmur of the stream blending with the faint rustle of leaves, wind brushing lightly against the roofs of cottages, lifting strands of hair, carrying the faint smell of herbs, smoke and earth, all sensations mingling seamlessly, creating a soft, continuous presence, a slow, deliberate rhythm of life. As the sun continues its descent, firelight begins to compete with fading sunlight, small hearths glowing warmly, hands preparing evening meals, vegetables chopped, slowly, pot stirred gently, steam rising softly, aroma spreading quietly through the cottages. Fingers wiping on cloths, lids lifted and replaced, everything done with measured care in the village. Square. Neighbors exchange soft greetings, hands brushing briefly, loaves of bread passed quietly, bundles of herbs offered with small nods, words low and deliberate, all movement slow, intentional, soothing. A cat weaves among legs, its soft fur brushing lightly against stockings, purring quietly. Small birds settle into branches, flapping wings faint, chirps soft, almost. Swallowed by the calm, evening deepens. Shadows stretch long and muted. The light softens, coolness returning to earth. The river glinting faintly under the waning sun. Cows shift in pastures. Sheep lie quietly. A goat stretches slowly, hooves pressing gently into grass. A dog curls tightly into straw, breathing slow, steady. Everything contained, measured, inside cottages. The last tasks of the day are completed. Clothes folded, tools cleaned, fire embers settled for the night, hands brushing lightly over surfaces, children curling into bedding, blankets pulled gently. Over small shoulders, the faint murmur of conversation soft, warmth of the hearth lingering, muscles loosening, breath slowing, limbs relaxing. Night spreads fully, darkness covering rooftops and walls. The cool air slipping quietly into every corner, soft sounds drifting, wood settling, wind brushing openings, animals resting, the river murmuring faintly, the distant hoot of an owl, all absorbed into the quiet, Sleep returns, deep, steady, restorative, breath falling slowly, thoughts thinning, limbs curling comfortably, the mind floating lightly between awareness and rest, a gentle, calm settling over every part of the village, each small sound, each motion, each faint scent blending into the soft pulse of ordinary life, slow, patient, endlessly enduring, the quiet heartbeat of medieval days. Night deepens, the village is draped in darkness, cool air, slipping gently into every corner, sliding along the stone floors, through cracks in timber walls, touching every surface softly, faint silhouettes of furniture resting quietly in small cottages, hearths reduced to gentle embers, glowing faintly, casting flickering light across walls, hands resting from their day's labor, muscles easing into stillness, children curled in straw-filled beds, blankets pulled lightly over shoulders, the soft scent of wool and straw mingling with the faint smoke from dying fires. Outside, the wind moves slowly, rustling leaves, whispering through narrow lanes, lifting stray strands of hair, swaying the tips of herbs tied in bundles to dry. The sound is soft, predictable, absorbed gently into the quiet of the village. The river murmurs steadily, water sliding over smooth stones, its surface glinting faintly in the pale moonlight. A heron shifts its weight lightly, head tucked, under a wing, breathing slow, motionless. Animals lie in pens, sheep resting, goats curled tightly, hens roosting, dogs stretched on straw, breathing slow and even, their presence contributing to the brewtim. Overall calm, even the trees seem to sway with measured patience, branches softly against the wind, leaves rustling quietly, creating a gentle, continuous rhythm. Inside a cottage, a woman shifts slightly, pulling a blanket tighter around the child, hands smoothing hair softly. A bowl left near the hearth catches faint, lingering steam. Small movements occur, hands adjusting a pot lid, feet shifting lightly against the floor. All measured, deliberate, soft. In another home, the blacksmith sits quietly by the fading coals, his hands resting on knees, the heat from the embers radiating slowly, metal tools nearby resting without use, the faint smell of iron and ash hanging. In the air, the rhythm of the village echoing quietly through stone walls. Children murmur in sleep. Small movements of blankets and tiny hands, their breathing slow, steady, absorbed into the rhythm of night. Even the occasional creak of timber, a lid nudged slightly, drops of water falling softly, all absorbed into the calm. The village exists in a state of gentle suspension, time moving, imperceptibly, minutes blending into hours. The moon slides slowly across the sky, pale light touching rooftops and timber, silvering the edges of stone, illuminating small details normally unnoticed. A stray feather, the texture of woven cloth, tiny pebbles along pathways, the air cool, soft, still, the smell of earth and herbs lingering faintly, everything quiet, everything slow, breath steady, limbs relaxing, thoughts thinning, mind floating lightly, neither fully awake nor fully asleep, the village held by the patient rhythm of night. Everything ordinary, everything enduring, soft, gentle, persistent, the heartbeat of medieval life carried quietly through hours that feel almost timeless. Before the first hint of light, the village rests in deep, unbroken stillness, darkness lying evenly across rooftops, narrow lanes swallowed softly, the air cool sliding quietly across stone floors and packed earth, touching timber walls, slipping through cracks and openings. A faint scent of damp earth lingering mixed with the subtle aroma of herbs tied in bundles to dry. The last embers of hearths fading slowly, glowing softly, casting gentle, dancing shadows on walls. Muscles relax fully. Hands rest on laps or stretch lightly across bedding. breath slow and steady, limbs curling naturally, children shifting slightly in sleep, small murmurs, barely audible, absorbed immediately into the stillness outside. The river moves quietly, its water brushing over smooth stones, creating the faintest ripple, reflecting pale hints of the sky beginning to lighten. A heron stands motionless at the bank, its head tucked gently, breathing deep. Evening's rhythm fully past, night's calm lingering. Animals stir minimally. Sheep shift their weight slowly. Goats stretch lightly. Hens adjust on roosts. Dogs curl into softer patches of straw, breath measured, steady. All movements subdued, all contained. Even the wind moves deliberately, rustling leaves in narrow alleys, lifting soft strands of hair, caressing the edges of thatch, touching the bundles of herbs. Soft, gentle, quiet, inside cottages. Small shifts occur. A woman rises slowly, bare feet pressing into the cool floor, hands brushing lightly over timbers, reaching for a small bowl of water, cool, smooth, lifting it with careful, deliberate motions. Children stir lightly, fingers brushing blankets, small yawns escaping softly. A cat stretches beside them, purring quietly, its fur catching the faint glow of embers in another cottage. A blacksmith awakens quietly, lifting tools gently, feeling the familiar weight, touching the cold iron, the forge still warm, embers glowing softly, the faint smell of iron and soot rising. Slowly, outside, the village is almost imperceptibly waking. Birds shifting on branches, rustling softly, occasional gentle chirps, insects beginning to stir quietly, dew glinting faintly on leaves, the first hints of pale light spreading across the horizon, touching the tops of rooftops, sliding slowly over the earth, warming the timber beams, illuminating the faint textures of stone walls, cobblestones glowing softly, shadows retreating gradually, the river reflecting pale light, ripples moving slowly, the entire village held in a soft, patient rhythm, time stretching, elongated, softly, gently. The day not yet begun, the world breathing slowly, waiting, calm, safe, steady. Everything ordinary, everything enduring, all absorbed into the quiet heartbeat of medieval life. The first pale light of morning spreads slowly across the village, touching the thatched roofs and timber walls, softly warming the stone floors and packed earth. A faint glow, highlighting the textures of walls, the rough grain of timber, the unevenness of cobblestones, dew sparkling gently on grass and garden herbs, tiny droplets catching light before sliding quietly too. The soil, the air still cool, carrying the faint scents of earth, damp straw, and drying herbs, the smoke from last night's fires lingering faintly, a comforting reminder of warmth. Inside cottages, hands stir slowly. A woman reaches for a small bowl of water, cool and smooth, lifting it carefully to wash her face, breath steady, muscles stretching gently. Nearby, a child shifts under soft blankets, bare feet pressing into straw, hands brushing over wool, small murmurs barely audible. The cat stretches again, fur catching the dim light, purring softly. Outside, the wind moves lightly, rustling leaves, lifting faint strands of hair, carrying the scent of herbs, earth, and faint smoke, soft and unhurried, through the village. Quiet movements begin. The blacksmith lifts tools with careful, deliberate motions, checking the forge, embers glowing faintly, metal laid out patiently. He lifts a rod of iron slowly, hammer meeting metal with gentle, rhythmic strikes, echoing softly against stone walls, each sound absorbed into the calm. Near the river, a woman kneels, linen in hand, dipping it carefully into cool water, swirling it slowly, tiny ripples glinting with the early sunlight, water droplets falling quietly back into the stream. The gentle murmur of the river blending with soft bird calls. A heron moves lightly along the bank. Footsteps slow, precise, watching, breathing. Children wander slowly toward the garden, bare feet pressing against cool soil, hands brushing gently over leaves. Observing insects moving deliberately across roots and stones. Small giggles escaping softly, absorbed immediately into the quiet rhythm of life. In the fields, farmers begin to lift tools, hoes, spades, sickles, hands gripping worn wood. Edges smoothed by countless repetitions, soil turned with careful, steady motions, each movement deliberate, soft, warm in the morning light. Cows shifting slowly, sheep grazing, hooves pressing gently into softened earth. Dogs walking lazily beside their masters, breath slow, steady, the distant sound of wood scraping earth mingling softly with faint hammering from the blacksmith. Everything contained, everything absorbed, the rhythm of the village. Slow, gentle, careful, peaceful. Even the small market begins to prepare. Stalls arrange with deliberate care. Baskets of vegetables, herbs, loaves of bread, pots and pottery set quietly. Hands lifting objects carefully. The faint scent of food rising, aroma drifting slowly through the narrow lanes. Neighbors nodding gently, words low, soft, gestures minimal, all deliberate, all calm. The late morning sun climbs higher, casting a soft golden light across the village, touching rooftops and timber beams, sliding slowly across cobblestone lanes, the packed earth warming gently, dew drying. Quietly under the sun, a faint scent of soil and herbs drifting through the air, smoke from the hearths of cottages rising in thin, curling ribbons, soft, delicate, the aroma of bread still lingering faintly. Inside cottages, women move quietly, hands lifting bowls of porridge, spoons tracing slowly through thick grains, steam rising softly. A child watches attentively, fingers tracing the edge of the wooden bowl, bare, feet pressing against the floor, small movements absorbed entirely into the calm of the room. Nearby, a cat stretches again, soft fur catching the light, purring faintly, the quiet rhythm of life, unnoticed yet grounding. Outside, the village hums gently with small, deliberate motions, farmers lifting tools slowly, hoes scraping the soil, sickles cutting stalks of wheat, each movement careful, softly echoing through the air. A blacksmith adjusts coals in the forge, metal glowing faintly, hammer striking gently, metal meeting stone in a muted ring, echoing softly against timber and stone walls. Near the river, a woman kneels, linen in hand, dipping it slowly into the cool water, twisting gently, tiny ripples catching sunlight, water droplets falling quietly back into the current, the river murmuring. Faintly, a heron shifts weight lightly, breathing slow, motionless, birds fluttering from branch to branch, wings brushing leaves, chirps faint and soft in the village square. Children wander, bare feet pressing against warm stones, small hands picking up smooth pebbles, observing insects crawling deliberately, low giggles blending gently with the ambient sounds. A woman arranges bundles of herbs, rosemary, thyme, sage, each tied carefully, scent rising faintly, sunlight glinting on the edges of leaves. A baker carries a tray of warm loaves, crust golden, placed carefully on a stall, the aroma drifting across the lane. Neighbors greet each other quietly, hands brushing briefly, soft nods, low words, all deliberate, all slow, peaceful. Animals in the fields move with calm awareness, cows shifting weight slowly, sheep grazing, hooves pressing gently into earth, dogs lying in shade, breath steady, even the wind moves with deliberation, rustling leaves, lifting light dust, touching rooftops, edges of herbs, all blended into one continuous rhythm, soft, patient, absorbing, the pulse of the village gentle and persistent, time unhurried, each moment flowing quietly into the next as midday approaches, the sun hangs warm and steady above the village, spreading gentle light across cottages and fields, the thatched roofs glowing faintly, timber walls catching the sun in muted gold, cobblestone paths illuminated softly, shadows stretching lazily, the air carrying faint aromas of baked bread, smoke from hearths, and simmering stews blended with the earthy scent of tilled soil and faint herbs drying on windowsills. Inside cottages, women prepare the first meals of the day, hands chopping vegetables, stirring pots, lifting lids to check the gentle simmer, steam curling softly into the air, fingers brushing lightly over wooden handles, movement slow, deliberate, calm. Nearby, a child carries a small basket, careful not to jostle its contents, bare feet pressing gently against the floor, a cat weaving between legs, purring softly. Outside, the blacksmith works steadily, hammer striking metal with quiet rhythm, coals blowing softly, tools arranged carefully, embers radiating gentle warmth. Near the river, a woman kneels, linen submerged in cool water, twisting and pressing slowly, tiny ripples glinting faintly, water droplets falling back quietly, the river murmuring softly. A heron stands, motionless, feet steady in shallow water, head tucked gently, breathing slow. Even the small animals move with deliberate care, sheep grazing, cows shifting weight, goats nibbling slowly, dogs resting. Under shade, breath measured. Soft, the market square begins to fill gently. Stalls arranged with care, baskets of vegetables, onions, garlic, herbs, pots of clay, warm loaves of bread, hands placing items slowly, neighbors greeting each other with soft nods, words low, gestures minimal, all deliberate, absorbing into the quiet rhythm, children wandering quietly, bare feet brushing the stone, picking up smooth pebbles, observing insects crawling along roots, soft laughter mingling with the ambient sounds, wind moving slowly, rustling leaves, lifting faint dust, carrying subtle scents of herbs and bread, the distant hum of the river, wood scraping against soil, hammer on iron, all sounds blending together, creating a soft, continuous pulse, the heartbeat of village life, slow, steady, calm, absorbing every observer, time stretching gently, moments flowing into one another, hands pressing lightly on stone or wood, breath slow, limbs easing, thoughts soft, attention drifting, all contained within the ordinary rhythm. Softly, patiently, the sun hangs high in the sky, its warmth spreading slowly over rooftops and gardens, touching timber walls, casting faint golden light across cobblestone paths. The earth beneath already warmed by morning sun. A faint scent of herbs mingles with the subtle aroma of cooked grains, the village breathing softly in unison. Inside cottages, women move carefully, hands chopping vegetables for midday meals, small knives tracing the surfaces of wooden boards, steam rising from pots, swirling gently into the air, fingers brushing over the edges of bowls, the rhythm of cooking deliberate, unhurried. A child reaches to help. Tiny hands lifting a basket of eggs, placing them carefully on a table, bare feet pressing lightly against the floor. A cat winds through legs, fur brushing gently, purring softly outside. The blacksmith lifts a glowing rod of iron, hammer striking stone, metal ringing softly, echoing quietly against timber walls, the coals radiating warmth. Near the river, a woman rinses freshly washed linen, hands moving slowly, twisting and pressing carefully. Tiny ripples glinting faintly in the sunlight, water droplets falling quietly back into the stream. A heron stands motionless at the edge, its long legs pressing into shallow water, head tucked under its wing, breathing slow and steady. Even the animals move with calm deliberation, sheep grazing, cows shifting weight, goats nibbling slowly, dogs resting in soft patches of shade. Breath measured, soft, absorbed into the quiet rhythm, the market square begins to hum gently, stalls arranged with care, baskets of vegetables, onions, garlic, herbs, pots of clay, warm loaves of bread, hands lifting and adjusting with deliberate care, neighbors nod softly, words low, gestures minimal, each interaction slow, intentional. Children wandering quietly, bare feet brushing stones, small hands picking up smooth pebbles, watching insects crawl across roots, small giggles barely escaping, absorbed immediately into the ambient calm. The wind moves gently, rustling leaves, lifting faint dust, touching rooftops, brushing bundles of herbs, carrying faint smells of bread, smoke, and earth. The rhythm murmuring quietly in the distance, wood scraping against soil, hammer striking iron, all merging into one soft, continuous rhythm. The heartbeat of the village, slow, steady, calm, absorbing every observer. Time stretching, moments flowing seamlessly into one another, hands pressing lightly against stone. Wood, breath slow, limbs easing, thoughts soft, attention drifting, all contained within the ordinary rhythm. Softly, patiently, persistently, near the edge of the village, the small garden plots are tended. A woman pulls weeds slowly, her fingers brushing gently against soil, checking each plant, watering roots with small cumber. Deliberate pause. Sunlight catching the glistening droplets, the smell faintly sweet, soft and earthy. Children wander near, bare feet pressing into softened soil, hands brushing leaves, collecting small stones, observing insects crawling deliberately along roots, soft laughter floating into the quiet air. Sheep move slowly in pastures, cows shift weight, hooves pressing gently, dogs lying quietly under shade, breath measured, steady. Even the wind seems to follow the rhythm of the day, softly lifting leaves, caressing the edges of herbs, touching rooftops, blending every scent, sound and motion into a single gentle pulse. The village continues slowly, deliberately, absorbing all movement into its calm, persistent heartbeat. As the afternoon stretches on, the sun begins its slow descent, casting warmer, softer light over rooftops, timber beams glowing faintly, cobblestones touched by gentle amber hues, shadows stretching longer across paths, the air carrying the subtle scent of herbs drying in small bundles, faint smoke from hearths lingering, mixed with the earthy aroma of tilled soil. Inside cottages, women stir pots slowly, vegetables simmering quietly, steam rising and curling gently toward openings in walls, hands brushing lightly over wooden handles, spoons tracing gentle circles, checking texture, taste, the rhythm of cooking calm and deliberate. A child carries a basket of small bowls, bare feet pressing lightly against stone or packed earth, hands adjusting gently, avoiding jostling. The contents. A cat winds through legs, fur brushing softly, purring faintly near the river. A woman kneels, linen in hand, dipping it slowly into cool water, twisting carefully, ripples glinting faintly in the afternoon sun, water droplets falling quietly back into the current. The river, murmuring softly. A heron shifts weight lightly, head tucked under a wing, breathing slow, still. Outside, farmers continue work, hoes and spades moving with deliberate patience, sickles slicing stalks slowly, hands worn and steady, sweat dampening sleeves, the faint scrape of metal on earth blending with soft hammering from the blacksmith. a rhythmic heartbeat of labor in the fields. Sheep graze, cows shift weight, hooves pressing gently into softened earth. Dogs lie quietly under shade, breath slow, steady, absorbed into the calm of the afternoon. Children wander through garden plots, bare feet pressing into soft soil, hands brushing over herbs, small giggles floating faintly, observing insects crawling slowly along roots. The market square hums with gentle activity. Stalls, arranged carefully, baskets of vegetables, herbs, clay pots, warm loaves of bread. Hands placing items slowly, neighbors nodding softly, words low, gestures minimal, all deliberate, absorbing into the quiet rhythm of life. The wind moves lightly, rustling, leaves lifting faint dust, touching rooftops, brushing the edges of herbs, carrying subtle scents of bread, smoke and earth. The river murmuring faintly, wood scraping earth, hammer striking iron, all blending seamlessly into one soft, continuous rhythm, the heartbeat of the village. Slow, steady, calm, absorbing every observer. Time stretching, moments flowing gently into one another, hands pressing lightly on stone or wood. Breath slow, limbs relaxing, thoughts soft, attention drifting, all contained within the ordinary rhythm. Softly, patiently, persistently. As the sun nears the horizon, warm light glancing off, rooftops touching garden herbs, the last tasks of the day unfold. Pots stirred for evening meals, bread removed from ovens, vegetables carried carefully, small animals fed, chickens pecking quietly, sheep guided gently toward pens, dogs walking calmly beside their owners. The distant lowing of cows blending with faint rustling leaves, evening air carrying warmth and faint earthiness. Inside cottages, hands fold cloths, tools cleaned, children washing hands slowly, faces and arms brushed lightly with water, blankets adjusted for comfort, a final glance at embers in the hearth, small motions, deliberate, calm, soft, outside. The wind slows, rustling leaves, the faint murmur of the river stretching softly through the village, all animals now settling. The cat curls into straw, purring low, the dog lies fully, stretched, breathing steady, goats resting quietly, sheep lying calmly, the village breathing softly, slowly, evenly, absorbing the final light of day. Evening descends slowly, the sun now low on the horizon, casting soft amber light across rooftops, timber beams glowing faintly, cobblestones touched by warm, fading hues, shadows stretching long and thin, the air cooling gradually, carrying faint scents of herbs, smoke, and the earth warmed through the day. Inside cottages, the last meals of the day are prepared, vegetables stirred slowly in wide pots, loaves of bread placed carefully on wooden boards, hands moving with deliberate attention, checking each item, softly as steam rising in gentle spirals, fingers brushing lightly over surfaces, children helping quietly, tiny hands carrying small bowls, bare feet pressing softly into floors, small movements, absorbed seamlessly into the calm. A cat winds among legs, fur brushing gently, purring faintly outside. The blacksmith tends the fading coals, lifting metal slowly, hammer striking gently, metal ringing softly, echoing faintly against stone and timber, embers glowing dimly, radiating warmth near the bowl. River. Water flows calmly, ripples catching the last light. The heron shifts slightly, head tucked, breathing slow and steady. Evening birds settle into branches, soft rustles of wings, tiny calls. Fading, farmers finish chores, tools set aside, hoes, spades and sickles resting carefully, sheep guided into pens, cows lowing softly, hooves pressing gently, dogs lying down quietly, breath slow, steady, absorbed into the calm. In the village square, Neighbors finish small exchanges, hands brushing briefly. Loaves and baskets pass slowly, words low, gestures minimal, all deliberate, all soft, absorbed into the quiet rhythm. Children wandering, mere gardens, bare feet pressing gently, hands brushing over herbs, collecting small stones, watching insects crawl slowly, faint giggles barely audible, blending with the soft sounds of the Tez. Evening, the wind moves gently, rustling leaves, touching rooftops, lifting faint dust, carrying the soft aroma of bread, smoke and earth, the distant murmur of the river, wood scraping softly against earth, hammer striking iron, all blending into one continuous, soft rhythm, the heartbeat of the village. Slow, steady, calm, absorbing every observer. Time stretching, moments flowing seamlessly, hands pressing lightly on stone or wood, breath slowing, limbs relaxing, thoughts soft, attention drifting, contained within ordinary life, softly, patiently, persistently. As darkness deepens, firelight becomes the dominant glow, hearths in cottages flickering, gently, hands tending embers, adding small pieces of wood, the smell of faint smoke and warmth mingling with the cool evening air, windows catching soft light, illuminating small interiors, children brushing hair, faces washed lightly, blankets adjusted, small creatures curling quietly, the cat settling into straw, dogs lying fully stretched, goats and sheep resting, breath slow, steady, the river murmuring faintly, wind brushing the leaves, all absorbed into calm. The village exists in a gentle suspension, time stretching, minutes dissolving into one another, sleep beginning to settle deep, patient, absorbing all held by the quiet heartbeat of medieval life. Night settles fully over the village, darkness spreading evenly across rooftops and narrow lanes, the sky deep and quiet, stars faintly visible above the still silhouettes of timber and stone. The air cool now, sliding gently along walls, resting against closed doors, settling into every shaded corner. Inside, cottages, hearth fires dim to soft embers, their glow low and steady, casting gentle, shifting light across walls and ceilings. Hands withdraw from the warmth, blankets pulled closer, bodies easing into familiar resting places, muscles loosening slowly, breath lengthening, falling into calm, even rhythms. Children curl instinctively, small hands tucked close, faces relaxed, thoughts already drifting far from the day. Outside, animals are quiet, sheep lie close together, goats resting with heads low, hens still on their roosts, dogs stretched in straw or against doorways, ears twitching faintly, breathing deep and steady. The river continues its soft movement, water brushing stones with patient consistency, a sound so familiar it barely registers. The wind moves lightly through leaves, a slow rustle, branches, swaying with gentle restraint. Inside one cottage, someone shifts slightly, a blanket adjusted, a hand resting more comfortably. The simple sounds of wood settling, a quiet creak, absorbed immediately into the calm. Moonlight slips through small openings, all touching floors, edges of furniture, revealing shapes softened by shadow. Time loses its sharpness. Minutes blend into hours. Nothing urgent, nothing expected, only rest, only stillness. The village held in a deep pause, a space belonging fully to night. Thoughts thin, attention fades, the body repairing quietly, gathering strength without effort. Outside, an owl moves silently, wings cutting through the air without sound. Then stillness returns, unchanged, enduring. The night remains gentle, protective, steady, holding the village in its quiet embrace, until slowly, almost imperceptibly, the darkest part of night begins to pass. Not yet morning, not yet light, just a subtle easing, a calm suspension where nothing stirs, nothing waits, and everything rests exactly as it should. Before any sign of morning, the village remains suspended in that deep and quiet interval, the hour when night feels widest, most complete, the air cool and settled, resting gently on rooftops and fields. Inside cottages, sleep lies heavy and undisturbed, bodies turned inward, breath slow and rhythmic, the faint rise and fall of chests barely visible in the dim light. Blankets hold warmth patiently, straw beds mould softly to familiar shapes, hands rest open, unclenched outside. The ground holds the chill of night, dew forming silently on grass and leaves, each droplet gathering without sound. The river continues its endless motion, unchanged, unaware of hours, water gliding past stones with quiet consistency. Trees stand still, branches barely shifting, leaves resting together. Even the wind pauses, as if listening. The village feels distant from time, untouched by urgency, held gently in place. A single ember glows faintly in a hearth, its light pulsing slowly, then dimming, then glowing again. No one notices, no one needs to. The rhythm continues on its own. Somewhere a sleeper turns, a breath deepens, a dream drifts through unnoticed, then fades. Animals remain quiet, ears relaxed, bodies heavy with rest. The owl has settled, the night birds silent. Now, the sky begins to soften, almost imperceptibly, not brighter, just less deep. A subtle thinning of darkness that goes unnamed, unseen, felt only in the slow turning of the world. Inside, village, nothing responds yet. No footsteps, no voices, no movement, only rest, only balance, only the steady holding of the night. Time flows without edges, until gradually, very gradually, the pause begins to loosen, not breaking, only easing, preparing gently for another ordinary day to arrive, quietly, without announcement, without hurry, exactly as it always has. The first change arrives without sound, without clear boundary. The darkness simply softens, as though the night exhales, the sky lightening just enough to shift the weight of shadows. Inside cottages, sleep remains deep, breath still slow and even, but bodies begin to stir in the smallest ways. A foot adjusts beneath a blanket, a hand curls slightly, a shoulder rolls gently, not waking, only responding to the quiet turning of time outside. Dew rests fully on grass and leaves, each blade carrying a cool weight, the earth holding moisture patiently. The river reflects the faintest suggestion of pale sky, its surface smooth, unbroken. Trees remain still, branches resting, leaves touching one another lightly. A bird shifts on a branch, not yet calling, just settling. Animals remain calm. Sheep breathe evenly. Dogs sleep on, hens remain tucked. The village still belongs to night, but the stillness has changed, subtly, almost tenderly. Inside one cottage, a woman's breath deepens, her body rolling slightly toward warmth. A child nearby murmurs softly, then falls still again. The hearth holds only memory now. Embers dim, heat lingering faintly in. Stone. Outside, the air feels lighter, cool but gentle, as if inviting movement without demanding it. The sky continues its slow transformation, color not yet present, only a thinning, a soft easing. Time stretches, no moment distinct from the next. No sound breaks the calm. The village waits without knowing. It waits, held between night and morning. A quiet space where nothing is required, nothing expected, only being, only rest, until slowly, so slowly it cannot be named, The world prepares to begin again, not with urgency, not with force, but with the same calm persistence that has always guided these days, softly, patiently, steadily, unchanged. The sky continues to lighten in the gentlest way, not bright, not clear, just a soft lifting of the dark, as though the night is loosening. Its hold, colours still muted, edges still blurred. Inside the village, nothing rushes to respond. Sleep lingers, breath remains slow. Steady, the quiet weight of rest still covering every home. Dew clings to the ground, cool and heavy, grass bending slightly beneath it. The earth dark and moist, holding the memory of night. The river glides onward, reflecting the pale leaning sky. Its movement unchanged. Patient, unaware of hours, trees stand quietly, their shapes gradually becoming clearer. Branches outline softly against the lightning air. A bird shifts again, feathers settling. Still no call, only presence inside a cottage. Someone stirs a little more, a knee bending, a blanket pulled closer, not waking, only adjusting, as bodies do when night nears its end. Animals remain settled, sheep pressed together, dogs breathing deeply, hens unmoving on their perches. The air feels balanced now, cool but kind, neither night nor day, a moment without name, without demand. The village rests fully within it, time stretches. Without edges, minutes dissolve quietly into one another. No bell rings, no voice calls, nothing announces what is coming. And yet, the world continues its steady turning. The sky softens further. Faint warmth begins to return to the air. Not felt yet, only promised. Inside one home, a hand reaches instinctively toward the floor, touching cool stone. Familiar, grounding, then resting again. Outside, the first bird finally releases a single soft call. Brief, unhurried, answered faintly from afar. Then quiet returns. The village remains calm, unchanged, held gently between what has passed and what will arrive, resting in the most peaceful part of the cycle, where nothing needs to happen, and everything already is. The light grows a little clearer now, still soft, still restrained, but present, enough to reveal familiar shapes, the curve of rooftops, the edges of doors, the narrow paths between cottages, the dew on grass beginning to glimmer faintly inside the village. Sleep loosens gradually, not breaking. Only thinning, breath remains slow, but deeper, more deliberate, as bodies prepare without conscious thought. A child shifts, stretching slightly, then settling. Again, a woman turns toward the faint coolness of the room, one hand resting on the floor, stone smooth and cold beneath her palm. Outside, the air carries a subtle change. Less night, more openness. The river reflects the sky more clearly now. A pale surface moving gently. Trees gain definition, leaves separating into individual shapes. A bird calls again, soft, unhurried. Then another. Each sound spaced carefully, never abrupt. Animals begin their smallest movements. A sheep lifts its head briefly, then lowers it again. Dog shifts position, exhaling slowly. Hens rustle faintly on their perches. The village remains quiet. No doors open, no voices rise. Only preparation without awareness inside a cottage. Someone sits up slowly, pausing, listening, letting the moment settle. Feet touch the floor, cool stone grounding the body. Hands rub together gently, bringing warmth back into fingers. A hearth is stirred, not yet lit, just checked. Embers remembered. Outside, the sky continues its slow transition. No sharp colors, only soft pale tones spreading evenly. The horizon brightening almost without notice. The air feels balanced, neither cold nor warm, resting. Between states, time still unmarked. The village held in calm suspension, a space where the past night and the coming day overlap gently. Nothing demands attention, nothing pulls forward. Everything unfolds at its own pace. The quiet rhythm remains steady, reliable, unchanged, and slowly, very slowly, the first ordinary moments of the day begin to form, not as events, but as continuations. The tea cycle easing forward, softly, patiently, without urgency. The pale light continues to spread, even and unhurried, touching the village without emphasis, revealing textures long familiar, the grain of wooden doors, the uneven surfaces of stone walls, the narrow lanes still empty and quiet, dew clinging to herbs and grass, each droplet catching the soft glow inside cottages. Waking comes gradually, never sudden, never forced. A woman rises slowly from her bed, pausing to steady herself, stretching arms gently, feeling the cool air on her skin. She moves carefully, so as not to disturb those still resting. A child stirs, eyes opening briefly, then closing again, comforted by the familiar sounds of morning beginning quietly. Outside, the air carries the faintest scent of smoke as someone adds a small piece of wood to a hearth, embers responding softly, a glow returning, no crackle, no rush, just warmth rebuilding patiently. The Dut River continues its steady course, now reflecting a clearer sky, pale and calm. Trees stand with quiet definition, leaves separated, still barely moving. Birds call softly, one by one, never overlapping. Each sound allowed space to fade before the next begins. Animals begin to respond. Sheep rise slowly, stretching, shaking dew from their wool. Dogs lift their heads, tails thumping. Once, then settling, hens shift and rustle, feathers adjusting. Inside a cottage, hands reach for a clay bowl, cool to the touch, water poured gently, used to wash faces and hands. The simple act grounding and familiar. Outside, a door opens quietly, wood moving without complaint, feet step onto packed earth, cool beneath bare soles. The light now fully present, still soft, still forgiving. The village begins to exist again. Not with noise, not with urgency, but with the same calm persistence that has always guided it. Small tasks resume, water drawn, tools gathered, fires tended, each movement deliberate, each action part of a rhythm older than memory. Children emerge slowly, rubbing eyes, stretching, drawn by the promise of warmth and routine. Neighbors nod softly as they pass, words unnecessary, understanding already shared. The morning settles into place, steady, reliable, another ordinary day unfolding exactly as the last, and the one before it, guided not by haste, but by habit, by repetition, by the quiet assurance that everything will move forward, as it always has, softly, patiently, without need to hurry. The morning continues to open itself gently. Light now, resting fully on the village, still soft, still kind, never sharp. The air cool but no longer cold, carrying the faint smells of damp earth, fresh water, and the first hints of smoke rising lazily. From hearths, people move slowly now, fully awake but unhurried, hands reaching for familiar tools, wooden buckets lifted, balanced carefully, water drawn with quiet splashes, the sound muffled and brief, absorbed by the stillness inside cottages. Simple meals begin to form, grains warmed, bread broken by hand, no rush, no excess, just enough. Children sit quietly, feet swinging lightly, listening to the small sounds of the home, a spoon touching a bowl, water poured, cloth folded outside. Gardens are checked, leaves brushed free of dew, soil pressed gently around roots, hands moving with memory rather than thought. The blacksmith steps into the open air, breathing deeply, feeling the weight of the day ahead without strain. The forge waits patiently, metal resting where it was left, Nothing demanding immediate attention. Animals are guided calmly. Sheep nudged toward open areas, cows led slowly, dogs walking beside without pulling, their pace matched to human steps. Birds now call more freely, but still spaced, still gentle, their sounds blending into the background, rather than rising above it. The river continues unchanged, its presence steady, reliable, a constant thread through the day. People pass one another in narrow lanes, soft nods exchanged, sometimes a quiet word, often none at all. Everything already understood. The village settles fully into its morning rhythm, not busy, not idle, simply moving, each person absorbed in small necessary actions, wood gathered, fires adjusted, tools cleaned from yesterday. Nothing wasted, nothing hurried. Children drift toward one another, walking slowly, finding small amusements in stones and insects, their laughter muted, never sharp. The sun climbs almost unnoticed, light warming stone and skin. The earlier chill fading, time flows without measurement. No bells, no clocks, only the sequence of tasks marking its passage. The world feels contained, complete, safe within its own repetition. The kind of day that does not need to be remembered, because it is like every other, steady, predictable, held together by habit and quiet effort. And as the morning stretches onward, the village continues exactly as it always has, each moment folding gently into the next, without urgency, without interruption, guided by the calm persistence of ordinary life, softly, patiently, endlessly. The morning settles deeper into itself, the sun now higher but still, gentle, its warmth spreading evenly across stone and soil, the village fully awake, yet never hurried. People move with the ease of familiarity, steps unmeasured, hands sure of their work. A woman carries a basket of herbs, the scent rising softly as leaves brush together. Another pauses to mend a simple tear, needle moving slowly, thread pulled with care, no urgency, only patience. Children wander near the edges of gardens, watching beetles trace slow paths through dirt, turning small stones, placing them back again, learning the land through quiet observation. The blacksmith begins his work in earnest, but even here the rhythm remains calm, metal warmed gradually, hammer lifted and lowered with steady consistency, the sound dull and contained, never sharp, never startling nearby. A man repairs a fence, wood pressed into place, hands checking stability, the work methodical, unrushed. Animals graze calmly, heads lowering and lifting, tails swaying lazily, flies brushed away. Without concern, the river glimmers softly, sunlight breaking into small patterns across its surface, unchanged, enduring. Women gather briefly to share simple news, voices low, words few, nothing, needing emphasis. Bread exchanged, a bundle of greens offered, accepted with a nod, then each returns to her place. Inside cottages, floors are swept, dust rising faintly, then settling again. Water carried and poured, the sound brief, absorbed, the air remains light, balanced, neither cool nor warm, just present. Time continues. Without announcement, no one marks it, no one needs to. The village breathes together, each person a quiet part of the whole, movements overlapping gently, never colliding, never rushed. Children grow, tired and sit, then rise again, their energy soft and unforced. The sun climbs further, shadows shorten. The morning begins its slow drift toward midday, but nothing changes abruptly. Everything flows, steady, predictable, held by habit and quiet necessity. The kind of life where survival is woven into routine, where each small action matters, yet never feels heavy. And so the day continues, unremarkable, unrecorded, peaceful in its sameness. each moment passing gently into the next, softly, patiently, without urgency, exactly as it has for countless days before, and will, again, without needing to be noticed. The warmth of the sun settles more fully now, spreading across the village in an even, gentle way, stone walls holding the heat, wooden beams warming slowly, the air carrying a faint sweetness from grasses and herbs. Nothing sharp, nothing demanding attention. People pause briefly in their work, not to rest exactly, but to shift, to stretch, to breathe, hands resting on hips, eyes lifting toward the sky, then returning to familiar tasks. A woman rinses a cloth in a basin, water rippling softly, the sound contained, soon gone. A man sharpens a tool, the motion slow, deliberate, metal scraping quietly, checked with a thumb, then set aside. Children gather near the shade of a tree, sitting close wall, drawing lines in the dirt with sticks, watching ants follow invisible paths, their voices low, never rising. The tree's leaves stir slightly, casting moving patterns on the ground. Near the fields, farmers continue steady work, rows tended, soil pressed back around roots, the scent of earth rich but calming. Animals remain untroubled, sheep wander, cows graze, dogs lie where the ground is, cool, eyes half closed, ears alert but relaxed. The river flows on, its sound now familiar enough to disappear into the background, as if the village breathes through it. Inside cottages, midday preparations begin quietly, pots set near the hearth, ingredients gathered, nothing elaborate, nothing hurried. A loaf broken, shared, a bowl broken, shared, a bowl, past record. The simplicity reassuring. Neighbors pass one another in narrow lanes, sometimes exchanging a word, often just a glance, the understanding unspoken. Everything continues as expected. See, the sun holds steady, shadows barely moving, time stretches, gentle and unmeasured. The village exists within its own rhythm, untouched by elsewhere, untouched by urgency. Each sound, softened by distance and familiarity, each motion part of a pattern repeated endlessly. The kind of life that leaves no sharp memories, only a steady sense of continuity, of days folding into days, of work and rest balanced carefully. And as the morning eases toward its middle, nothing announces the shift. It simply happens. The light changes slightly, the air warms a little more, and the village continues calm, predictable, held together by routine and by the quiet persistence of ordinary life. Softly, patiently, without need to hurry, the day continues its slow unfolding. The sun now, resting higher above, its warmth steady but never harsh, spreading evenly across fields and roofs, the village moving within it as it always has, without pause, without hurry. Hands continue their work. A woman turns bread carefully over a warm surface, watching the crust change slowly. A man lifts a bucket, water sloshing gently, the sound brief and contained. Children drift apart and together, again their attention shifting easily. Stones replaced, sticks dropped, shade found, lost, found again. The blacksmith pauses between strikes, wiping his brow, feeling the heat of the forge, then returns to his rhythm hue, hammer rising, falling, each movement measured, familiar. Near the river, linen is laid across smooth stones, sunlight drawing moisture away, the cloth lightening gradually, the water murmuring nearby, unchanged. Trees hold their leaves still, only the faintest motion when air passes through. The scent of earth and grass grows warmer, comforting. Inside cottages, floors are cool beneath bare feet, hands set bowls aside, wipe surfaces clean, everything returned to its place, nothing left unsettled. Animals shift with the heat, finding shade, settling. Again, breath steady, flies brushed away without concern. The The village holds together in its quiet completeness. No one stands apart, no one rushes ahead, each person moving in time with the rest. The sun inches forward. Shadows shift almost imperceptibly, time passing without needing to be named. The midday calm settles in fully, a gentle plateau in the day, where effort softens and routine carries everything forward. The world feels contained, balanced, whole, and as the hours continue to drift, the village remains exactly what it has always been: steady, enduring, ordinary in the most peaceful way, each moment dissolving gently into the next, without urgency, without interruption, guided by habit, by repetition, by the quiet certainty that tomorrow will come, and that it will look much the same, softly, patiently, unchanged. The midday calm stretches onward, settled and unbroken, the sun holding its place above the village, light steady, warm, even. People move more slowly now, not from fatigue, but from balance, the body knowing how much effort is needed. And no more. A woman sits briefly on a low stool, shelling beans, the soft tapping sound muted, almost lost. A man rests his hands on a fence rail, looking out across the fields, not counting time, just standing, breathing. Children lie in the shade, watching clouds drift, their shapes forming and dissolving, attention wandering without aim. The blacksmith lets his tools rest, metal cooling gradually, the forge quiet, only warmth lingering in the stone. Near the river, someone rinses hands, water slipping through fingers, cool, refreshing, then gone. Animals remain calm, heads lowered, eyes half closed. The village seems to exhale collectively, the rhythm of work, easing into maintenance, checking, adjusting, waiting. Inside cottages, bowls are washed, placed upside down to dry, cloths hung carefully, light filtering through small openings, patterns shifting slowly across walls. The air hums faintly with insects, never loud, never sharp, just present. The wind moves lazily, brushing grasses, touching rooftops, lifting nothing with urgency. Neighbors pass one another with quiet familiarity. No need for greeting, recognition, already shared. The day holds steady, nothing changing abruptly, nothing demanding attention. Time passes without measure, the village resting inside its routine, secure, predictable, whole. And as the sun begins its subtle turn toward afternoon, the shift arrives softly, felt more than seen, the light warming differently, the shadows lengthening just enough to be noticed. Work will resume its earlier rhythm, but for now, the village remains suspended in this gentle middle space where effort pauses and existence simply continues quietly, patiently, unchanged, carried forward by the calm persistence of ordinary life. The afternoon begins its slow return to motion, not abruptly, not with intention, just a quiet leaning forward, as if the day gently reminds the village of its steady course. The sun shifts slightly, light warming new surfaces, stone edges glowing, wood grain becoming more pronounced. People rise from brief rests, stretching without effort, hands returning to familiar tools. A woman gathers dried herbs, fingers brushing leaves, the scent lifting softly into the air. A man resumes work at the fence, pressing posts deeper, checking their firmness. Children drift back toward the lanes, their movements loose, unplanned, picking up small tasks without realizing it, carrying a cup, fetching water, following adults quietly. The blacksmith returns to the forge, coals stirred gently, heat building slowly, metal placed with care. No rush, no force. Near the river, linen is turned once more, sunlight drawing out the last cool dampness, cloth brightening gradually, water flowing beside it, steady, unchanged. Animals rise and move again, sheep nudged toward fresh grass, Cows led with calm steps, dogs padding along, matching the pace naturally. The air holds warmth now, comfortable, balanced. The faint hum of insects settles into the background, never intrusive, just present inside cottages. Shadows stretch across walls, light shifting through small openings. Hands sweep floors, wipe surfaces, prepare for what will come later, not in haste, just readiness. Neighbors pass each other in, lanes, sometimes exchanging a few quiet words, sometimes nothing at all, presence enough. The village continues to breathe as one, each movement fitting easily into the whole. Time moves forward, without pressure, without marking itself, the sun slowly lowering, the light softening again, work unfolding gently, ending where it naturally should. Everything familiar, everything steady, the kind of day that leaves no sharp edge in memory, only a feeling of continuity, of belonging to a rhythm larger than any single moment. And as the afternoon deepens, the village carries on quietly, patiently, guided by habit, by repetition, by the calm assurance that life continues best when nothing is forced, nothing rushed, nothing pulled too far ahead, just one ordinary moment, folding gently into the next, softly, endlessly, unchanged. The afternoon settles deeper into its slow descent, the sun easing lower, its warmth softening, light turning gentle and angled, resting against walls and paths, lengthening shadows across the packed earth. The village responds without thought. Hands finish tasks naturally, not stopping, not rushing, just arriving at a pause. A woman sets aside a basket, wiping her hands on cloth, breathing evenly. A man lifts a tool, leans it carefully against a wall, checking that it rests securely. Children slow their wandering, energy fading into quiet curiosity, sitting on steps watching dust drift in sunlight. The blacksmith allows the forge to cool again, embers glowing faintly, metal resting where it was shaped, nothing more needed. For now, near the river, the last linen is gathered, folded loosely, still warm from the sun, water continuing its calm movement beside it. Animals drift toward familiar places, sheep guided gently, cows stepping slowly, dogs settling where the ground holds evening coolness. The air shifts again, carrying a hint of approaching evening, still warm, but softer, more forgiving, inside cottages. Preparation begins without urgency. Vegetables gathered, bread counted, firewood brought closer, hands moving with memory rather than intention. Light slips through openings at a lower angle, patterns, stretching across walls, then fading. Neighbors cross paths in narrow lanes, a quiet word exchanged, a nod, a shared understanding that the day has nearly completed its arc. The village grows, calmer, not from exhaustion, but from fulfillment, work done as much as it needs to be. Nothing left pressing. Time slows further, as if honoring the effort already given. The sun continues its descent unnoticed by most, yet felt everywhere. The rhythm shifts gently, the afternoon leaning toward evening without resistance, without announcement, just the natural continuation of the cycle. Ordinary, reliable, and deeply familiar. The kind of passing hour that carries no weight, only reassurance that life continues, steadily, patiently, unchanged. One soft moment flowing into the next, without urgency, without end. The light continues to soften as the sun moves closer to the horizon, its warmth spreading more gently now, no longer pressing down, but resting lightly on stone and soil. The village eases with it, steps slowing, voices lowering, movements becoming smaller and more deliberate. A woman rinses her hands one last time, water-cool, slipping between fingers. Then, drying them on a cloth, a man gathers scattered tools, placing each where it belongs. not checking the time, only following habit. Children drift toward doorways, sitting on thresholds, watching the changing light, their bodies relaxed, their thoughts unanchored. The blacksmith closes his workspace quietly, the forge dim, metal cooling, the familiar scent of iron lingering faintly near the blur river. The surface reflects the sky's warmer tones, ripples catching color, then releasing it, unchanged in motion. Animals settle again, sheep pressing close, cows breathing deeply, dogs curling into familiar shapes. The air carries evening now, a subtle shift, cooler, calmer, inside cottages. Fires attended gently, wood placed carefully, embers responding with a low glow, pots set nearby, not yet cooking, just waiting. Light from small openings fades gradually, walls growing dim, shadows blending together. Neighbors pass with fewer words now, a quiet presence enough. The village feels contained, complete, nothing unfinished, nothing demanding attention. Time loosens, further stretching without edges. The sun slips lower, its last light touching rooftops, then stone, then earth, each surface releasing the warmth slowly. The rhythm changes again, not ending, just turning. Afternoon giving way to evening as it always does. Without ceremony, without notice, the village accepts it naturally, breathing steadily, resting into the next phase of the day. Softly in, patiently, unhurried, held by repetition, by familiarity, by the calm assurance that everything is moving exactly as it should. Evening gathers fully now, not arriving suddenly, but settling like a thin layer over everything, the remaining light loosening its hold, sliding away from walls, from paths, from faces. The village grows quieter, not silent, just softened. Fires glow, more steadily inside cottages, casting a low warmth that does not flicker sharply. Pots are set to warm, simple meals prepared without ceremony, hands moving from memory, from long repetition. Wood creaks gently as doors are closed, not tightly, just enough to rest against the frame. Outside, the lanes empty gradually, footsteps fading, dust settling back into place. Animals are guided into familiar shelters, their movement slow, unresisting. Breath deep and even, the air cools another small degree, noticeable only on skin that has been warmed all day. A breeze passes through gaps, between buildings, carrying the scent of earth, of smoke, of grass pressed flat by evening dew. Inside, people sit, not always speaking, sometimes just present, listening to the low sounds of fire, of breath, of distant night creatures beginning their quiet routines. Children lean against walls or laps, eyes heavy, attention drifting, the day releasing them gently. Shadows deepen until they merge, edges softening, corners disappearing into dimness. The last hint of sunlight fades completely, leaving a balanced darkness, not heavy, not empty, just complete. Time slows further, stretching into long quiet moments, nothing measured, nothing expected. The village rests inside this calm, held by familiarity, by the knowledge that morning will return without effort, without planning. For now there is only this: evening settled, work finished, bodies easing toward rest, the steady continuation of ordinary life, folding softly inward, patient, unchanging, and quietly whole. Night deepens further, not thick, not heavy, just wider, stretching gently over the village, the sky holding its dark calmly, stars appearing one by one, unnoticed, unremarked, as if they have always been there. Fires inside cottages burn lower now, embers glowing softly, giving off steady warmth. People settle into familiar places, lying down, sitting back, letting the body release the last small tensions of the day. Breath slows naturally, lengthening, finding its own quiet rhythm. Outside, the lanes rest completely, no movement, no purpose left in them until morning. Wooden walls hold the night air, cool, still. Animals shift only slightly, settling deeper into sleep. The air carries faint sounds, an owl somewhere distant, a rustle in grass, each sound brief, contained, then gone. Inside, thoughts thin and drift, the mind no longer following the shape of the day. Memories loosening, attention floating, nothing requiring decision, nothing pulling forward. Time becomes less, defined, stretching into something softer, less measured. The village exists without effort now, held together by habit, by repetition, by countless nights like this one. Before the first hint of light, there is a moment of complete stillness, the deepest part of night, when nothing stirs, nothing waits, the world balanced perfectly between what has passed and what will return. And in that quiet, rest settles fully, uninterrupted, unquestioned, the cycle continuing as it always has, not marked, not recorded, just lived, softly, patiently, one ordinary night, flowing gently toward another. Morning unchanging, endless calm. Time moves without hurry. The village rests fully. Darkness settled evenly over rooftops and fields. Each stone and timber held in quiet weight, the sky above deep and still. Faint stars shimmering softly. So far away they seem to belong to nothing. The air cool, slipping through narrow lanes, brushing the walls of cottages, sliding over rooftops, nestling into gardens. The river murmurs faintly, a constant thread moving without change inside. The hearths have dimmed, embers glowing faintly, carrying warmth quietly, enough to ease the edges of night. Hands rest on blankets, bodies curled in familiar positions, muscles loosening, breath falling into slow, steady rhythms, children sleeping heavily, dreaming lightly, or simply held between thought and rest outside. Animals settle further, sheep press together, cows shifting weight slowly, dogs curling in straw, ears twitching softly, feathers brushing together in hens. The breeze moves gently, rustling, leaves touching herbs drying in small bundles, the scent faint, earthy, smoky. Inside, the village is still alive with small, unconscious motion. Yorth, a hand shifts lightly, a blanket pulled closer, a foot nudges against cool floor, a cat curls more tightly in straw, an ember flares faintly, then softens again. The blacksmith's forge lies quiet, tools resting, metal cooling, the memory of work lingering in the stone. Near the river, water glides slowly, reflecting stars, linen left out glistening faintly with dew, touching the air only lightly. The night stretches endlessly, deep, patient, absorbing everything. Inside, someone stirs lightly, hands moving over blankets, checking children, adjusting warmth, then resting again. The body knows what to do without thought. Outside, the village remains untroubled. No doors opening, no voices, just the slow pulse of life contained. Trees swaying softly, leaves brushing, animals breathing evenly, each movement absorbed into the abyss. Calm, the moon rises higher, light spilling across rooftops, stone and timber glowing softly, shadows stretching, then blending. The river's murmuring remains constant, a thread connecting each small element. The night continues, long, soft, unbroken. Inside cottages, breath slows, bodies sink further into rest, limbs curling, hands unclenching, heart steady, even the faintest sounds of movement gentle. The village is held completely in this rhythm, time losing, its edges, moments dissolving, folding into each other, minutes uncounted, all balanced, the world waiting, not for anything, only existing. and in this waiting sleep moves, fully deep, quiet, gradual, releasing everything from the day, preparing for the soft return of light, preparing for another ordinary morning, slowly, softly, without urgency, without end. Very well. We continue. Night holding the village still, slipping slowly toward pre-dawn. The darkness softening but not yet broken. Every surface held in quiet wait. Roofs, stone walls, narrow lanes, the air cool, gentle, sliding over everything, carrying faint scents of earth, dew and smoke from hearths long dimmed inside cottages. Bodies shift slightly, hands brushing blankets closer, feet pressing lightly against floors, breath long, even, steady, muscles loosening, children still curled in sleep, small murmurs of dreams, barely audible. A cat curls tighter, tail brushing paws, ears flicking once, then still again. Dogs sigh softly, stretching then curling. Sheep press closer together. Cows exhale slowly. All movement, contained, absorbed into the night. The river murmurs constantly, soft ripples brushing stones, reflecting faint starlight. The trees stand still, leaves brushing gently in the faintest breeze, each sound absorbed immediately into the calm inside cottages. Hands shift over objects, a bowl moved, a cloth straightened, small motions guided entirely by memory, no thought required. Fires glow dimly, embers radiating soft warmth. The blacksmith's forge lies. Quiet, tools resting, metal cooling slowly. The memory of work lingering in air. Outside, the first faint hints of color touch the horizon, not light, just the suggestion. A soft thinning of the darkness, sky stretching gently toward a pale edge. The village remains contained. The lanes, empty. No footsteps, no voices. Only the slow pulse of night continuing. Time loses definition. Minutes dissolve into one another, breath by breath, movement by movement. The village held in perfect balance, preparing for the gradual return of light inside. A hand moves slowly over a child, adjusting blankets, ensuring warmth, then still again. A foot nudges slightly, then rests. The smallest sounds echo softly. The air carries them lightly. Nothing sharp, nothing abrupt. The village exists quietly, completely. The moon dips lower, its light fading. Stars glimmer faintly, then fade. The horizon brightens imperceptibly, a soft grey spreading. Across rooftops, edges of stone becoming visible. Walls and paths revealed gently. The river glints faintly, water catching pale color, then releasing it. A bird moves lightly in the distance, shifting feathers. Then still, the first stirrings of morning arrive slowly. A breath, a sigh, soft, unhurried inside cottages. Hands shift again, stretching lightly. A body turns, another exhales. Limbs uncurl, the village is poised, caught between night and day, between sleep and action. The world expanding, softly, quietly, evenly, time moving forward without announcement, without pressure, the ordinary cycle continuing, soft, patient, unchanging. The first light of morning arrives gradually, so soft it almost seems to be a part of the night, spilling along the horizon, touching the tops of rooftops, the edges of walls, the curves of thatched roofs, slanting gently into the narrow lanes. The air is cool, still, slipping softly over stone and timber, rustling leaves, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and herbs drying from yesterday. Inside cottages, bodies shift lightly, limbs uncurl, hands move slowly, stretching just enough to ease the stiffness of sleep. Children murmur softly in dreams, then settle again. The cat rises and stretches, back arched, tail curling lightly, then curls again in the warm straw. Dogs shift slightly, lifting heads, then laying them back down, breath steady, even, outside. The village is still quiet, the lanes empty, dew clinging to grass, reflecting the faint pale light. The river moves continuously, its surface smooth, catching glimpses of the sky's first pale colors. Trees sway barely, branches brushing softly, leaves trembling in the lightest breeze. The village seems to breathe in unison, a collective sigh of stillness inside. Someone rises, a hand brushing over the floor, cold under fingertips, then warming slowly as they move. A woman gathers water quietly, steps measured, bucket balanced. A child sits up, rubbing, ease, legs dangling over the edge of a bed, bare feet touching the floor. A faint shuffle, a soft exhale, then stillness again outside. The blacksmith checks his tools. Hammer resting gently against the anvil. Metal cool, forge unlit, embers fading. He lifts a piece of iron lightly, touching it to check warmth, then sets it aside. Near the river, the surface catches more of the light, gentle ripples reflecting soft color. Linen laid to dry from the day before glistens with dew. Someone turns a corner, footsteps muted on the packed earth, moving slowly, deliberately. Hands brushing against walls for balance. Animals begin to stir. Sheep shift weight. Cows lift heads, tails swishing lightly. Hens stretch wings softly, cowling quietly to each other. The air fills with the gentle sounds of morning awakening. Inside cottages, fires are rekindled. Wood placed carefully. Pots adjusted on the hearth. Steam rising slowly, carrying the faint aroma of herbs, grains, and bread. Hands move in rhythm, memory guiding motion. No rush, no urgency. Neighbors cross paths in the lanes. A nod, a soft word, mutual recognition without fanfare. Children wander outside, bare feet pressing cool earth, sticks in hand, watching ants turning small stones. Everything ordinary, everything unhurried. The sun climbs higher. Edges of shadow shift softly, time stretching minutes, dissolving quietly into one another. The village is fully awake but entirely calm. Life continues as it always has. Hands and feet moving with familiar rhythm. Animals following their instincts. Gently, the river murmuring its constant song. The air carrying warmth gradually. Neither sharp nor overwhelming, just steady, soft, predictable, inside. People sit with simple meals, bread broken carefully, water poured slowly, children eating quietly. No rush, no hurry. The day unfolds piece by piece, without notice, without sudden change. The rhythm continues, steady, measured, soft, patient, unchanging. The morning drifts gently onward, light spreading fully across the village, soft and even, touching walls, roofs, and the narrow lanes between cottages, stone warmed gradually, timber beams glowing faintly, dew clinging to grass and herbs, reflecting pale light, air still cool, sliding gently along every surface, carrying faint scents of earth. Smoke from hearths and dried herbs inside cottages. Movements remain small and deliberate, hands lifting slowly, fingers brushing over familiar objects. A woman pours water into a basin, listening to the soft ripple, then setting it aside. Children shift lightly, stretching, legs dangling, feet touching the floor, murmurs fading into stillness. The cat stretches, arching its back, tail curling lightly, then curls again. Dogs lift heads, briefly, then settle breath steady, even outside. The village is quiet but alive. The river moves smoothly, reflecting the first pale tones of the sky. Trees sway slightly, leaves brushing, branches bending gently, shadows shortening, stretching, merging into soft pools. The village breathes collectively, inhabited by small movements, hands moving, tools lifted, buckets carried, steps measured. The blacksmith checks his tools. Hammer resting lightly against the anvil, metal cool, embers fading, then rising slightly as coals are added. Near the river, linen dries slowly, Dew evaporating in the gentle light, ripples reflecting the sky. Someone walks quietly along the lane, footsteps muted, hands brushing lightly along walls. Animals begin to tarry. Sheep rising slowly, cows lifting heads, tails swishing, hens stretching wings, calling softly to one another inside cottages. Fires are tended, wood added carefully, pots adjusted, steam rising gradually, aroma of grains, bread, and herbs filling the air, movements deliberate, a habit guiding motion. Neighbors pass one another in lanes, nodding softly, a word sometimes exchanged, a glance enough to acknowledge presence. Children wander outside, bare feet pressing cool earth, sticks drawn in the dirt, stones turned. Everything ordinary, everything unhurried. The sun climbing higher, shadows shifting, light, warming stone and soil. Time moving quietly, minutes stretching softly into one another. The village fully awake but calm. Life continuing naturally. Hands and feet moving rhythmically. Animals grazing or resting, river murmuring steadily, air warming gradually. Inside, simple meals are prepared, bread broken slowly, water poured carefully, children eating quietly, no rush, no urgency, the day unfolding piece by piece, tasks performed deliberately, nothing forced nor the rhythm continues, soft, patient, unchanging, the ordinary cycle of life holding steady, the warmth of the sun spreading evenly, the village breathing, alive in quiet motion, each moment, blending seamlessly into the next, the world contained, balanced, unchanging, ordinary, steady, persistent, and entirely calm. The late morning unfolds slowly, light spilling fully across the village, warm but gentle, softly touching rooftops, stone walls, timber beams, narrow lanes winding between cottages, dew long evaporated from grass and herbs, leaving only the faint scent of earth and warmth inside cottages. Hands move deliberately, preparing simple meals, bread sliced carefully, water poured slowly, pots adjusted on hearths, steam rising gradually, carrying faint scents of grains, herbs, and smoke. Children wander near doorways, feet bare against cool floors, stretching lightly, then settling into small tasks, drawing lines in dirt, watching insects, turning small stones, absorbing the quiet rhythms of life. The blacksmith returns to the forge, coals stirred lightly, metal warmed slowly, hammer raised and lowered with steady deliberation, each motion measured, familiar, outside. The river glides continuously, its surface smooth, catching the light, reflecting the pale blue of sky, ripples moving gently, trees sway softly, leaves brushing against each other, the faintest movement in the gentle breeze. The village breathes in quiet unison, every step, every hand, every animal synchronized to its own small rhythm. Sheep graze slowly, cows lift heads, then settle. Again, dogs lie in familiar spots, eyes half closed, tails flicking occasionally. Hens move among each other, calling softly. The light lowers slowly toward evening once more, soft and familiar, settling over the village without effort. Shadows lengthen gently, stretching across stone and earth. The air cools again, returning to its calm balance. Hands finish their final small tasks, tools set down where they belong. Doors rest quietly in their frames. Animals are guided toward familiar shelter. Steps are unhurried, voices already fading. Inside the cottages, fires glow low and steady, giving warmth without urgency. Simple meals end quietly. Bowls are set aside, hands wiped on cloth. Children lean against walls or laps, eyes heavy, breath slowing, the day releasing them gently. Outside, the lanes are empty once more, dust settling back into place, the river continuing its soft movement unchanged, patient, Evening folds into night, just as it always does. Darkness spreads evenly, not heavy, not sudden, simply complete. The village rests. Bodies ease into familiar positions, muscles loosen, breath finds its calm rhythm. Thoughts thin, attention drifts, sleep arrives without effort. Nothing needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be prepared. The cycle is already complete. The world holding itself together quietly, patiently, unchanging. And as the village sleeps, time continues. Its gentle turning, soft, endless, steady until morning returns. As it always will, without hurry, without demand, just another ordinary day waiting, peacefully, beyond the dark.